and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode number 98. And the title of this episode is "The Government Illusion is Giving Way to the Economic Collapse." And today we see the stock market is in a positive light. Gold is back up above 1,200, and it's up about $30 or so. And but then again, everyone, all the sleeping people, are looking at the stock market and looking at those type of things. But we need to look at the actions of the government, the actions of other governments around the world, the actions of the central bankers, the actions of the Fed, and everything else that is not connected to the stock market. And that will let us know what really is going on. And that's what we are looking at, because we're starting to see things that we normally wouldn't see in a free market economy, basically. And right now in Argentina is legitimizes black market currency with new dollar-backed CDs, and these new CDs basically, this article goes on to say that the hyperinflation-prone Argentina had reached epic proportions of disconnect from the official rate of exchange to the U.S. dollar. It seems the government didn't like this, and so has decided to take control of this shadow economy by creating a new payment method. And these are called the certificate of deposit for investment. And basically, their money is worthless, so they're trying to figure out a new currency to use to trade them in, to trade them in for U.S. dollars. And just think about it here in the United States or in the European nations. If your currency becomes worthless, what do you have? And it doesn't really go on to explain how they get the certificate of deposit for investments. But if you had gold and silver, I'm sure, since gold and silver is recognized around the world and everyone knows the worth of gold and silver, you would be able to exchange the gold and silver for U.S. dollars or for anything that you needed. Okay, let's move on here. Now, when I say the actions of the economy, we're talking about things that are going on around the world. And in the Eurozone, over 19 million people are without jobs, and unemployment is hitting a record high. Italy is reporting unemployment is hitting a record high. And basically, the unemployment across the 17 Eurozone states hit an all-time high in May. And Spain, which is grappling with a youth unemployment, has surged up to 56.5%. And Cyprus saw an unemployment increase to 16.3% versus 15.8% previously. So we're seeing this move. We're seeing people without work. The percentage is growing and moving upwards. Again, in the U.S., you don't see any of this because they changed the unemployment calculation, GDP, inflation, and all the other calculations. They even changed the gauge of how they gauge how many jobs they need to lower the unemployment. It used to be 150,000. Now it's only 80,000. So yes, with statistics, they can continually manipulate the information to continually keep the illusion that everything is okay, but in reality, it is not okay. And again, they keep the illusion with food stamps, which are not really food stamps. They're credit card looking cards. You swipe them just like a credit card, and you can go into any market and buy food, and not one other person would ever notice or know that you're on food stamps. So they found a perfect way to disguise and keep the illusion going where nobody would become the wiser when the whole thing falls apart. Now, Jim Rogers warns we're all going to suffer from this crazy, crazy money printing. And he goes on to say, we're getting to that point where either one of two things are going to happen. Either central banks are going to stop all this money printing, or the market is going to force them to stop it. It looks like we may be having a juncture of both, where the Fed is getting worried, and at the same time, the market is jumping in and saying, yes, it's insane what you're doing, and this has to end. So we may have a healthy convergence of both. And if it's not ending now, it's going to end sometime in the next year, because this cannot go on. It's too insane. And he goes on to say, this is the first time in history where you have all the central banks in the world printing money at the same time. Europe, Japan, America, and the UK all are frantically trying to debase their currencies. I'm afraid that in the end, we're all going to suffer, perhaps worse than ever, with inflation, currency turmoil, and higher interest rates. As I say, this has never happened before. It's never been a good policy in the long run. So I'm afraid we're all going to suffer for the rest of this decade from this crazy, crazy money printing. If you have money in the financial system and the financial system collapses, he added, even though you may have done nothing wrong, you may suffer because somebody else did something wrong. So you need to be very careful about where your assets are in the financial system, or have strict control over them so that you're not going to lose them. And again, we've had many discussions before about leaving your money in the bank and the dollar collapsing, and basically almost everyone is telling you to put your money into gold and silver, and I'm doing the same thing. Even though gold is going down, I am considering that this is a huge, huge July 4th sale. Go out, buy some gold. If you can't afford the gold, definitely buy some silver, because silver is really inexpensive. I mean, put it this way. Silver is, what is it, $19, $20 or whatever it is? I mean, how many people go out and for the whole week buy coffee for more than that? So, you can pick up silver and keep that and store it away, because when the shit hits the fan and the bank holidays come, or the cyber attacks come, or the bail-ins come, and you can't get your money, or the dollar collapses and it's worth nothing, at least you have something put away, which also should include food, medical supplies, water, batteries, weapons, and things like that. But at least you have monetarily something where you can use it to purchase or do something with it, or trade it in later on when a new system evolves out of the old system. Now, we can tell, again, from the actions, and that the illusion is completely cracking away and the economic collapse is shining its head through, is that 80 billion leaves bond funds, a record amount of money poured out of exchange-traded and mutual bond funds in June, according to a fresh report by Trim Tabs, nearly double the amount pulled out of bond funds at the height of the financial crisis in October of 2008. Now, we're seeing this happen, and since people are selling, there has to be a buyer, and I'm sure the Fed is picking up and purchasing all these treasury bonds and all these other bonds in stealth mode, and we probably don't even realize that they're spending a lot more than the 40 to 45 billion or whatever they're spending each month, because whatever they tell us, it's usually double or triple of what they're actually doing. Now, another way that we can tell that the economic collapse is shining its head through and breaking through this illusion that everything is okay, there's a massive 580 tons of gold purchased in 7 days. Andrew Maguire told King World News that Eastern central banks have purchased a staggering 580 tons of not paper, but physical gold in just the last 7 trading days. This means Eastern central banks just purchased a stunning 25% of the world's annual gold mine production in just 7 trading days. This was the largest purchase of physical gold during any 7 trading day span in history. Now, again, we have to remember, gold was pushed down. Now, for all those suckers who said, holy crap, I better sell my gold, started to sell their gold and get rid of it because, people think it's in a bubble and got to get rid of it. And the smart people who saw it all go on sale for the July 4th holiday, and across the world, I know you don't celebrate July 4th, so you can make up any holiday you would like, and it went on sale and you should be buying it. But central bankers were purchasing it. You think there was something going on here? Well, let's see. And I'm going to read here. Basically, Andrew Maguire is going on to say there's absolutely no physical gold for sale. Maguire spoke about the manipulative takedown in the metals. Let's start by looking at what happened on Wednesday morning, because this is really where the intervention came in. In the very thin access markets, in very thin liquidity, we saw a surgical strike, and it was designed to trip off and accelerate end quarter position. There is no doubt that this manipulation was Fed-backed and agent bullion bank instigated. This is the important part. These producers have to balance their books at the end of the quarter, and these guys were hoping for prices above 1,300. This was a highly predatory move, but it enabled these bullion banks to go some way towards replenishing depleted bullion inventories. So basically, this was on purpose, which we all knew. I mean, this is not a surprise. All of a sudden, it was, brought down under $1,200, and central banks across the world, all of a sudden started buying it, while all the suckers were selling it. Now, we have to remember back to 2008, and again, every time you see things happen, it's always the opposite of what you should be doing. In 2007, 2008, or even before that, they were telling you to buy real estate. They were telling you to get into the stock market. Everything's fabulous. The Fed doesn't see or doesn't predict any recession. There is not a real estate bubble. We have the subprime market contained. You always see this. Let's go back to 1929. In 1930, or even previous before that, before everything went to hell, Europe was basically in a huge recession, depression. America saw soup lines. They saw people out of work, but the stock market was rallying to new highs. We had a crash in 1929, but the president came out and said the worst is behind us. Don't worry, we're getting back on our feet. People are getting jobs. Everything looks good. 1932, a huge crash of the market. Again, President Obama, in the present day, is telling us everything looks good. The economy is recovering. Even the Fed's telling us everything looks good. We're going to start tapering because everything is so great that we don't have to print money anymore. Again, always the opposite. News reports coming out telling everyone that the housing is picking up, everything's great, run out to buy housing. I know 2 people now that purchased homes without putting a down payment on the home. The whole thing 100% financed through the bank. Is this not a repeat of 2006, 2007, 2008? Here we go again. Now, there was an interesting article that said the 36 hard questions about the U.S. economy that the mainstream media should be asking. I'm not going to read them all. I'll read a couple of them, but it is on this page if you want to look in. I've seen it all over the internet also. Number one, if the percentage of working age Americans that have a job is exactly the same as it was 3 years ago, then why is the government telling us that the unemployment rate has gone down significantly during that time? Number two, why are some U.S. companies allowed to exploit disabled workers by paying them as little as 22 cents an hour? Number three, why are some private prisons allowed to pay their prisoners just $1 a day to do jobs that other Americans could be doing? Number four, why is the real disposable income in the United States falling at the fastest rate that we have seen since 2008? And a couple episodes ago, we said that disposable income is way, way down, which means that people are underemployed or unemployed. Number five, why do 53% of all Americans workers make less than $30,000 a year? Again, we're seeing the salaries of Americans deflating. So there you're seeing deflation on the salaries. Number six, why are wages at a percentage of GDP at an all-time low? That was number six. Number seven, why are 76% of all Americans living paycheck to paycheck? Number eight, why are so many large corporations issuing negative earnings guidance for this quarter? Does this indicate the economy is about to experience a significant downturn? That's strange. They're indicating a negative earning guidance, but the stock market is continually making new highs. Number 10, why are central banks selling off record amounts of U.S. debt right now? I'm just going to skip down here. Number 15, if the U.S. economy is recovering, why is the mortgage delinquency rate in the United States still near 10%? And this, I'll just read the last one here. Number 36, why has the size of the U.S. national debt gotten more than 5,000 times larger since the Federal Reserve was created back in 1913? All right, let's move on here. Now, there's an Egyptian military coup in 48 hours if no solution found. So basically, what do we know? Obama has sent troops over to Egypt. Millions of people are protesting and want Morsi out of office and do not want U.S. interference. They do not want aid from the United States. Basically, they want the U.S. out. So again, why is Obama sending troops there? Why are we getting involved? What is the U.S. government protecting over there? Maybe they're protecting the petrodollar and the central bank. Very interesting. And basically, the Egyptian military goes on to say, the Egyptian military won't be part of politics. The Egyptian military says national security is subject to grave danger. Egyptian military says protests are unprecedented, and the Egyptian military says their homeland is facing dire situation. And we're seeing the Middle East starting to rip apart now, because way back when the U.S. government decided to, and the central bankers decided to go into all these countries like Iraq, Libya, Lebanon, trying to get into Syria, Yemen, Egypt, and force everyone back onto the petrodollar, force these countries to take the central bank. We're seeing the real people rise up and say, this is not what we want. This is not what we want, because before it was paid mercenaries that basically overthrew the existing governments, and a puppet government was put in, so these countries would be forced to sell their oils in the reserve currency. And right now, Obama faces a backlash on Syria. The House lawmakers introduced 3 bills this week, 2 with identical titles, that would restrict funds for arming the Syrian opposition and prevent the administration from intervening without congressional approval. which this is the way the government is supposed to work, but who wants to follow laws anymore? Let's just do whatever the hell we want. That's what the Obama administration has been doing, and the Bush administration, and the Clinton administration, and the Congress seems to be struggling to say stop this, because you just can't, do these things without coming to us. And basically, this bill now puts the central bankers and the Obama administration in a corner where they're going to have to stop this, because they can't let this bill go through, and they're going to have to do something before even the votes start, because they want this war. They need this war. They know what's coming. They know the economic collapse is coming, and they know what they have to do. So in the upcoming weeks, we are definitely going to see some type of false flag, and we have a couple false flags coming up. We have the toy gun. I mean, again, we have many different things pending in the Senate, and we are going to see something that will bring us to war. But let's move on, and I'll get into that in a little bit here. Now, we can see things, government by terror, torture, and tyranny. This was an article, and it pretty much sums up what's happening around the country. Lying is official policy in the government. So is state terror. Independent governments aren't tolerated. They're targeted. Regime change is prioritized. World peace is threatened. Daily war is called peace. State-sponsored assassins are called freedom fighters. Real ones are called terrorists. Capital has divine rights. Moneyed interests run things. Plundering the earth for profit is prioritized. Democracy's a four-letter word. Out-of-control power is unaccountable. Rule of law principles are mocked. Tyranny is the law of the land. Workers are exploited. They're unprotected. Human and civil rights are sacrificed. Wealth, power, and privilege are served. Cyber war is official U.S. policy. Unprecedented global spying is official U.S. policy. And basically, when martial law is declared and the president puts forward the National Defense Resource Preparedness Executive Order, they will seize your food and resources, and hoarding of just about anything can be banned. And basically, if you look at the National Defense Resource Preparedness Executive Order, I have it linked here. The government would seize energy depots, large farms, water reservoirs, and infrastructure. Critical factories in the midst of widespread disaster is a given, but how far can they really go? According to a detailed analysis by Code Green Prep, the President's legal support for seizing our food and other supplies suggests they can go all the way, including what you have stocked in your home pantry. And if you look at Section 2072, and I have it linked on this page here, in order to prevent hoarding, no person shall accumulate in excess of the reasonable demands of business, personal, or home consumption. Number 2, for the purpose of resale at the prices in excess of prevailing market prices, materials which have been designated by the President as scarce materials or materials the supply of which would be threatened by such accumulation. So basically, when he does declare martial law and he places this executive order into existence, a lot of things are going to take place. And if you do, and hopefully most of you are prepping with food, water, and stuff, this is the time to think about where you can place it and hide it. Plus, don't go around telling people that you have anything, that you are a prepper, that you're doing anything. It's none of anyone's business. It's your business, and that is it. Now, EU and Germany and France, they're all up in arms because of this NSA spying, and they're spying on diplomats. They're spying on all the conversation, just like here in America. Basically, NSA is spying all around the world, and they are outraged. And basically, they go on to say partners do not spy on each other. Um, you know, basically, the talks on the free trade agreement between EU and the U.S. shall be halted until Washington provides explanations. We cannot negotiate over a big transatlantic market if there is the slightest doubt that our partners are carrying out spying activities on the offices of our negotiators. And basically, this is all for the central bankers and the whoever you want to call them, elite, Illuminati, um, um, any other group, Rothschilds, anything you want to call them. This is what the spying is there for. This is where all the information flows to, and they want to know what everyone is doing. Now, basically, Congress is ignoring the bills to limit NSA spying. It's amazing. When something happens like the World Trade Center goes down, the Boston bombing, and all these other things, we can have thousands of bills run like the Patriot Act, go right into the Senate, and 20 hours later, boom, we have a bill, thousands of pages long, and it's passed and everything like this. But when they learn that the NSA spying is taking place, it's slow. The bills aren't getting through. They're being ignored. It's just amazing to me when the people's rights are being violated. Our government, our congressmen, our representative sit on their hands and do nothing. All right, let's move on here. Now, there was an article that says DHS secret assassination squads. And basically, we know the DHS has been put in place to spy on before, during, and after the collapse. They want to know all the people, and basically they have numerous watch lists for the police, and it is alleged that these have been prepared by the ADL. The lists now feature the following groups in order of alleged domestic terror threats: evangelical Christians, Catholics, vets, Tea Party members, Ron Paul supporters, patriots, constitutionalists, gun owners, and tax protesters. So basically, as we know this, all their systems and everything they put in place, the fusion centers and all this, they are putting in place to create these lists, to put the people in the groups, understand where they live, what their everyday activities are, where do they travel, what they purchase, what they do. And this is what all this spying is all about, because they need to know where to go, how to get them when the time comes. Now, we were talking about false flags, talking about Syria, the bill being passed, and the Obama administration, central bankers cannot let this happen because they need this war to cover up the economic collapse. So we have many different false flags occurring this week and next week and throughout the summer. Now, the feds are worrying about a July 4th firework bomb. They're worried about homegrown terrorists and extremists, that they can build these firework bombs by learning how to do this on the internet. And they're very concerned because the Boston bombers were originally planning to bomb New York on the 4th of July, but they decided to do it during Patriot Day, during the marathon. And again, you know what my theory was on that, that the Boston bombing was really to go after the gun owners, because the gun legislation was gun bill was in the Senate. They were busy voting on it, and if they can make their case that the black powder was tied to crazy gun owners, and that's why they had that actress She supposedly was sending this ricin letter to Mayor Bloomberg and Obama, and she said, I'm a gun-loving fool, or whatever she said, and if you come to my house, I'm going to shoot you in your face. And it seems like the whole thing was set up to go that way. And now they're building their case because John Kerry and Joe Biden said by August the UN Arms Treaty and the gun bill legislation will be passed by August. So this has to make you think that something is definitely going to happen um, this week. July 3rd, we have the Toy Gun March. 1,400 weapons are missing from the national park. They don't know where they went. They don't know who took them. They know nothing about it, but it's an easy way to plant these items on the toy gun marchers and pretend they made the shot. Also, gun owners on July 4th are supposed to march on the state capitals with or without loaded guns. So you can see how that could be a setup. The UN nuclear chief warns of a dirty bomb threat. Analysts say radical groups could theoretically build a crude but deadly nuclear bomb if they have the money, technical knowledge, and the amount of fissile material needed. Partly as a result of these efforts, there has not been a terrorist attack involving nuclear or other radioactive material. But this must not lull us into a false sense of security, because radioactive material is seen as less hard to find, and the device easier to manufacture. Experts say a so-called dirty bomb is a more likely threat than a nuclear bomb. U.S. Energy Secretary Ernest Moniz repeated Washington's assertion that al-Qaeda had been trying for years to obtain nuclear material for a weapon. More than 100 incidents of thefts and other unauthorized activities involving nuclear and radioactive material are reported to the IAEA every year. Some material goes missing and is never found. And if you go back to the homepage of the X-22 report site, on the right-hand side I have the sidebar, and I have never heard anything else reported. On May 16th, authorities hunting for nuclear gauge lost in West Virginia. Dangerous radioactive material fell off the back of a truck in West Virginia. And I never saw a follow-up story. If somebody knows that they found it all and none of it's missing, you can do a comment or go to the people and just say, yes, they found it, and just point me to the correct article or whatever they have there. And coming up also during this time period is in July is the New York City chemical drill, where they're going to release gas into the subway system. The National Scout Jamboree drill is also happening, and they warned us about a biological weapons drill. July 18th is the new cyber attack simulation on 50 financial or company or bank tests that they're going to run by the DHS. What else do we have here? Oh, and the Zimmerman trial. We could see race riots in July where the president could basically declare martial law, and he can declare martial law on all this stuff. July 15th, Wisconsin biological drill. July 16th, Colorado biological drill. And August 26th, California biological drill. So there is so much going on right now that we are definitely headed down for some type of false flag operation. One, to bring us into war. Two, to pass the gun bill and the UN Arms Treaty. And three, to pass CISPA, which they're going to use probably the cyber attack simulation or some other cyber attack. Now, if all these things don't work, they still have their main event, which is a main cyber attack, which is a perfect storm where they could use a main cyber attack from a country when all else fails and they have nothing else. They're backed into a corner, and they just use this to black out everything, because we've had many, many reports of how the infrastructure is not sound and it's open to cyber attacks, and it's been going on for a year and a half. They're just brainwashing, prepping all the American people and European people and Australian people all together that this could happen. And the cyber attack, again, is the main event where the lights go out, they blame it on another country, they rob us of our money, they they declare martial law, they can confiscate the guns for your safety, and blame it on another country where we can go to war. So all of this is coming up. The illusion is being pulled back. The economic collapse head is poking through, and they are doing everything they can right now to stop this from happening until they get everything in order and everything they want beforehand. Just like you saw them drop the gold price because they had to buy all the gold. They have to do certain things. Now the government also has to do certain things because they just can't. They have to keep it going. They need to get the guns. They need to pass certain legislation that gives them the authority to do what they need to do. And they need to do all of this before the collapse. So if you still have time, but time is running out, you need to start prepping, buy gold and silver, of course, but more importantly, buy food, water, batteries, lighting, medical supplies, toiletry, all those things that we need to do. Now, I put on a page, if you go to Resources tab, I put on a page, these are the things that I've purchased or things that I are going to purchase, and once I have enough money, I'll purchase the rest. Like the solar generator, I really like to purchase because I don't want to use a gas generator. I'd rather have something that's powered by the sun, and I can power some refrigerators and radio and TV, things like that, and it's always renewable, and I don't have to worry about running out of gas. But these are the things that I'm going after right now. Most of the stuff there I already have. And I didn't put like food and water and all that stuff. And I have other weapons I didn't put up there either and other stuff. But I'll keep adding to it, and I'm going to start putting explanations of why I have these things. So if you want to go take a look, go ahead. And basically, just we all need to be ready. I hope everyone is getting ready. I hope everyone is getting prepared. Thank you very much for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.